Hello, guys. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, is it better now?
Yes,
Oh,
this
okay.
is good.
Then maybe my MacBook is tired. I have to just off it. Okay. So let me start over again. I'll just open my Visual Code Editor. So now let me create a new. So we'll go to Terminal again. Then I create a new folder. CD doc. MKDR. Okay, let me just call it decentralized donation app. Centralized.
Please, I can't see your screen.
Yeah, I will share my screen soon. Okay, so let me show you what I'm doing right now. It's important. So this is what I'm doing right now. I'm creating my folder to handle that. Okay. So I started by creating the folder, as you can see, MKDR, the centralized donation app, and then I CD into the folder, right? So I'm now inside the folder. I'll open it on my VS Code, and that's the command code dot. Open it on my VS Code. Okay, so now I'll share my Visual Code with you. Okay. I hope you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see the screen.
All right. That's fine. So we start from all right. So we start by installing Hardhat. Remember, we're going to build this project inside Hardhat framework. So npx Hardhat. That's the easiest way to install Hardhat. npx Hardhat. And then so let's wait to see what. And that's my problem with my Windows. It's quite slow. Okay. I'm waiting for Hardhat to install. Um, so npx Hardhat. So that's the issue I'm facing right now. Hardhat is not installing. I don't know what is going on, but that is not my internet. It's rather the machine, I'm sure. Okay. So what I will do is that I'll try using terminal, using the laptop terminal to install Hardhat. Then I'll see what happens. Okay, so it is happening. Okay, so can you see what is going on right now? Okay, so I click on accept by saying why. Please, I need you guys to be very interactive so that I'll see if there is anything going wrong. You let me know. Okay, so this is where we reach before I switch to this laptop. All right, so when you get to this level, you have to choose the programming language you want to use. And like I said, personally, I like using TypeScript, but you can either use TypeScript or you use JavaScript. So that will depend onto you, you know. So for the sake of this, let's use JavaScript because normally we like using JavaScript. So let's use JavaScript. I'll select JavaScript. And then when you get to this level, you take your time to answer these questions. Do you want Hardhat project inside the root folder? So this is the root folder, decentralized donation app. So you select yes by just clicking on enter. Then this one also says that do you want to add a git ignore? Of course, we want to add git ignore because we'll be pushing this project to GitHub, and you don't want some important information to be sent to GitHub. So we'll have to choose yes. Now, this is what you should take note whenever you get to this level. Whenever you see a question like this, you have two options, the Y and then the N. And by default, something will be selected. And normally you will see that Y will be selected. So in case you don't want to add git ignore, right, you have to press N on your keyboard. And when you press N on your keyboard, automatically this one will be rejected. It means that you don't want to add git ignore. But when you have the question like this and Y is already selected, it means that yes, you want to add it. So you just press on enter and that will be added. Okay. And sometimes too, you get the question and by default, N will be chosen. But you don't want, maybe N is selected by default, but you want to add that particular feature. So what you need to do is to press Y on your keyboard so that it will change it to yes. So we have this one. Do you want to install these sample projects dependencies with npm? So this is very important. If you miss this place, you're going to have something, you're going to have a problem with your project. So when you get here, just click on enter because Y is already selected to install the dependencies. So we have Y, then this will take some few seconds or minutes to finish installing. Let's give it some time. Okay, so Hardhat is almost installed. Okay, so we have Hardhat installed now. Let's proceed. Okay, so you can see that Hardhat is a very large project or framework. It takes time to install just one dependency, even though this dependency comprises of a lot of tools. So it could be the reason. Now let's see something. So after installing the project, you should see something like this. If you don't see something like this, it means that your installation is not done successfully. So anytime you finish installing, just check to make sure that you have something like this. So you should have the Hardhat configuration file, the package JSON, and then the important thing is the contracts folder, the ignition, and then the test files. All right, so inside the contract folder, you see a default file called the log.so. So we are not going to use this one. We'll be deleting them. We'll create our new files, which we'll be using. All right. So this is how the structure looks like when you get to this place. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is to start with the project. So we have to create the project file. Now, how do we do that? We are building a donation app. Remember, we are building a donation app. So we have to create a smart contract for it. Okay, so let's come here. There are two options here. You either edit this one or you just delete it and create your new app. So I will just edit it. I'll edit the name. So I'll rename it to donation contract. So I'll say donation contract dot so. All right. And then inside here, I don't need anything. I'll just delete. I'll just highlight and delete. Okay. And then what we need to do next is to go to HackerBoost. Go to HackerBoost. Okay, Kofi, your hand is up. You want to say something?
Sir, please, can you zoom in a bit?
Okay, I shall enlarge the screen now. All right. How is it now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Is it better now?
Yes, please.
Okay, that's fine. So what we need now is to go to HackerBoost because we don't have time. Like when you get here, we're going to be building the contracts by not just taking the boilerplate, but we need to understand, why we have this function and why this is this and that. because that is very important, right? But for the sake of this, we just need to understand the flow of everything. So let's go to Hacker Boost. Then we grab the boilerplate code over there so we already have the contract there, and you write the following code inside. So I'm going to grab that one and put it in. So if you are following along with your laptop, just do like that. You can go to, I think that is lesson 2.3. You can go to lesson 2.3 and copy the code there. Okay. All right. So I'll copy the code and I'll just paste the entire code here. All right. So let me explain the code. I'll just explain some few lines so that we can move ahead. Okay. So this is the donation contract. I know very well that this thing is not new to you. You know almost everything about here. You know what Pragma Solidity is. That is a version, and then the contract, which is donation contract. Then inside the contract, we have the contract logic. And inside this contract, we have some few functions. Let's look at the functions. Now, the functions are what define the actions of the function, the contract. So first function says that function to receive donations. Okay. So what this contract does is that it is used to process donations. So first thing is that if somebody wants to donate to, let's say, the app, the person will have to call a function called the donate function, and that is the function we have here. So what the donate function does is it first requires that the person calling the function must enter a value. Okay, so that's why we have here message.value. You can read, I know you know this, or you can read more about it to understand. So anytime you are creating a function, which is a payable function, you have to require a value. Okay, and over here, what you will do is just to call the message.value, and then inside a require method. Now, what the require method does is it has to first check to be sure that the person must fulfill this particular line before he can move to the next lines. Okay, so it says that the person calling the function must enter a value which is greater than 0. So if the person calling this, then this function do not have any amount, or is not able to put an amount which is more than 0, the function will not work. Okay, and then the person has the value, what happens is that you move to the next line, and inside the next line we have a mapping. Okay, so donations mapping, when you check at the top, we should be able to see something like that. This is the mapping called donations. And inside these donations, what it is doing is that, you know what a mapping is? So mapping is like map this address to this value. Okay, so the person calling is calling with his address, and he's going to donate an amount inside the contract. So what the mapping will do is that take that particular person's address and then map it to the amount the person is going to donate in. So that's why we have here mapping, which maps the address of the person to the amount he's donating, and then it will keep it inside this particular variable called the donations contract. Okay, somebody say let me in. So let me check. I don't know. Can you guys also allow people in? I don't know why always I have to be doing that. Maybe Okay, let me add. What do I say? I'll add you as a co-host. Okay. So okay, so let's continue. Now that is what the function does. And then we move to the next function, which is function to withdraw. So you know, as usual, when you send money into a contract, you also want a way to withdraw the money inside the contract. So this particular function you are seeing here, that's what it is used for. Okay, so you call the function to withdraw the amount inside the contract, and it also contains the require method. Okay, you can see it here. The require line is the first message or send that is called to owner. So first, before this particular function will work, this requirement has to run first, and you can see the logic in it. It has to first check to see that the person calling the function is the owner of the contract. Okay, so for example, let's say that you are building a donation contract for a particular organization. So maybe that organization is an NGO, and then you are building a donation contract for them. Okay, so you might want to deploy the contract with their organization's address. So they might have an address which you will use to deploy that particular contract. Or even during deployment, you can take their address and set it as the owner of the contract. So you know that you can create a constructor. During deployment, you can create a constructor, and then inside the constructor, you can create a variable. And then you make sure that before you deploy the contract, you assign their address as the owner of the contract. Okay. So when you deploy it, that particular address that you use as the owner of the address will be the only address that can call this particular function called withdraw function. Okay. Or if you don't do something like that and you just deploy the contract. Now, during deployment, definitely you're going to connect your MetaMask account to do the deployment. So that particular account that you use for the deployment will be the owner of this particular contract. So that particular owner should be the only person that can call this address or this function. So that's why you see here says require message dot sender is called to owner. Okay, so let's move. We don't have much time. I think we only have two functions inside the donation app. That is a function to donate and a function to withdraw. So the next thing we need to do is to compile our contract. So just like you are doing on Remix, after you have your contract ready, you have to compile it, right? So we compile it to see. To compile, how do you compile on Hardhat? It's very simple. npx Hardhat compile. So that's how you compile your contract. You say npx Hardhat compile. So if this was Remix, you just go to the compile button, then you click on it. You make sure you select your contract file, then you just click on compile and it will compile your code. But on Hardhat, you have to call this command npx Hardhat compile. And after doing this, you will see a folder called artifacts, the artifacts folder. So you remember that even on Remix, after you call the button or you click on the button, you generate a new folder called the artifact. So the same thing happens on Hardhat. After we compile, you must see that particular folder called the artifacts. Now, this artifacts folder contains the important things that you'll be using for your front-end integration. So take note. After you compile, the artifacts folder will produce the ABI of the contract. And this ABI is what you'll be taking to hook your contract onto your front end. So you have to take note of it. And I just want you to know before we do the compilation so that you see it created. Okay, so npx Hardhat compile, press enter. Let's see if there's nothing wrong. You will see that we see compilation successfully. So let's see what happened. Let's see the output. Great. So you can check here on the terminal. It says that compiled one Solidity file successfully. Okay. And then you can now see the artifacts folder, which is created here. So that means that our contract ABI was generated. Let's check to see whether it is there. So this is the ABI. Let's open contracts, then artifacts, open contracts, and then it is a JSON file. This is it, donation contracts.json. So this is why you open to find the ABI. Okay, so you open this one, and then inside this JSON file, you will now see the ABI. So check it here, ABI. All right. So we are not using this for now, but I need you guys to take note of it. As we move, we'll come back here to copy only this one, only this ABI. We just come back and copy it, only this one, to use on our front end. All right. So let's move. Next thing to do is to deploy the contract. Okay. So if you are writing a productive contract, like the one you are building, a project you are building to go to the market, you have to test your contract. And we don't have time. Like I will have show you guys how we can just test this contract using some few scripts here. But we'll be moving, maybe next time we'll do it. Okay. So on Remix, testing your contract is very easy. After you deploy, okay, you get a contract, the contract instance. Then you just be putting your figures in and doing your testing. But on Hardhat, you do it in a different way. You have to use some code or some scripts to be able to test your contract. All right. So let's go to deployment. So let's go to Hardhat, so Hacker Boost, and then we move to 2.4, which says that compiling and deploying your contract. So we're going to do what? Here it says that compiling the contract. We are done with compiling. Deploying the donation contract locally. Okay. So, all right. So we have the script on Hacker Boost. Just go and copy it. That's what we'll be using for the deployment. It is very easy. Now, if you don't want to use this script, I'll show you something. When you open the ignition, this is where the contract is. The deployment file is. You open ignition, and then you find the deployment script inside the modules. So on Hardhat, I think something like that is specified. Okay. So it says open deploy donation. Yes. So deploying the donation contract locally. Create a new deployment script. In your project's root directory, open the ignition/modules folder. And that is what I'm showing you here. And then inside the folder, create a deployment script named deploy donation contract.js. Okay. So inside these modules, you create a new file called deploy donation contract .js. So we are using JavaScript, so .js. This is what and then you can delete this one. You can delete the lock.js. So that's the default file. You can delete it and leave the newly created file, which is called deploy donation contract.js. Then let's go to Hacker Boost and copy the deployment script. Now I was going to show you something, but I've already deleted it. So this deployment script you are seeing on Hacker Boost is the same deployment script provided by Hardhat. So if you want, you can try to understand it. But if you don't want to waste your time, you don't need to understand it, because the framework has provided you with that particular script to use and do your deployment. So if you are building your app, unless you want to move further, if you are not interested in that, you just want to deploy your contract so that you can move ahead, you use what the framework has provided, then you just deploy your contract and you are moving. So that's the same thing let me bring it back. And then when you check in the lock.js, it's the same thing that we have on HackerBoost. So this particular script you have here is provided by the Hardhat. And if you want to learn more about it, they have given us, this particular link. So hardhat.org/ignition, you can learn more about this script. Else, you just come here. So this one we did, we deleted this one, we don't need it. And then we instead of lock.model, we have donation contract model, and something like that. So I'm deleting it. Then I go to HackerBoost and copy. I go to HackerBoost and copy the script. Okay. So I'm explaining that to you because you might want to take your time to understand what this particular thing is, and it might be giving you some headache, because normally sometimes when you are learning, you want to understand every line, you want to get everything, something like that. But when you get here, just know that you don't need to. Okay, so this is the script we'll be using to deploy our contract. Now, the most important thing here is that when you have this script, you make sure that the contract name inside here is the same contract that you want to deploy. Okay, so let's check something. The first line called dependency. You remember that during the installation of Hardhat, we were asked to install the project dependency, which we did. And the project dependency, the name of it is the Nomic Foundation /Hardhat Ignition /models. That is it. So this one contains the tools for the framework. Now, inside the deployment, first we have this variable which called that particular dependency, and then a model.expose, which defines everything. But inside that model, that's inside this particular thing, we now have an instant. So you can check it here, cons donation, which is like an instant of the contract that we want to deploy. This one here, you make sure that it is the same name to your contract. So any mistake here, the contract will not deploy. So check donation contract D and then capital D, capital C. Let's go and check. I'm trying to let you guys understand this because it is very important. Normally, people run into trouble when they get here. So the name of it, sometimes what I do is that I just do like this, rename, then I copy. Okay, then I come back to the script, and then I just do this and paste it, something like that. So you make sure that when you do it this way, you are not missing anything. All right, and then this one returns the donation, which is like an object. So it will return an object which now contains the contract address, all the important things that you need to have from your deployment. Okay, so we have it like this. Let's go and deploy. Let's go to our terminal and deploy. Okay, but we cannot deploy, guys. We can't deploy. We have to also configure our Hardhat file. So this is very important. You see, I nearly forgot and I was moving. Okay, so if I had written the command npx Hardhat deploy this and this ignition, it will not run because you have to first configure your Hardhat. Sometimes it will run, but it will rather deploy the contract on the Hardhat console instead of deploying it on your preferred blockchain. Okay, but if you just want to maybe test it on the Hardhat framework, you can just deploy without any configuration here. But we don't want to deploy it on Hardhat. We want to deploy on our preferred chain. So what you need to do is to configure your Hardhat configuration file. Okay, so it's very easy to do. You just have to add the network. So we say networks, and then this one takes the account and then the private key. Okay, so let's not give ourselves headache. Cancel it like this. Then go to Hacker Boost. We have the boilerplate code there. Can you hear me? Somebody's talking.
Yes, please, you can hear, sir.
Okay. So what we need to do now is to deploy our contract, but you have to first configure your file, your configuration file. Okay, so let me bring it back. Then we just do it. So account. And then we also say private key. We can call it private key. All right. So when you have it like this, the next thing you need to do is to now go to your Alchemy. Think you know this. All right. So you can check the previous video, how we did the configuration. You can check. I'll just copy this and put it there. Okay. So inside the networks, first you have to specify the network you want it to be. So let's say it's a polia. Okay. And then if you specify it's a polia, this will be like something which takes like this. Okay. So I'm showing you this, but just for you guys to know, if you don't want to do all of this, just go to the code and copy the thing and put it there without all this hassle. But sometimes you have to take your time to understand whatever you are doing. So if you understand it, you know that. So accounts, so something like this, accounts. Okay, so this one now takes the Alchemy. This one takes the Alchemy URL, and then this one takes your private key. Okay, now let's go to Hacker Boost and copy. Another thing I explained to you guys the last time was this particular line, Solidity 0.8.28. So this is the Solidity version that we are using. That means this is the current version. Now, take note. Inside your contract at the top, we defined the version called Pragma Solidity, and we are using 0.8.27 and above. Okay, so what it means is that this particular version we are using here should be able to compile the contract, because this is under, or this is not up to, or this is not above the version we have here. But if this was less, let's say we have here as 2.7, and then here we have it as 2.5 or 2.6. If you run your compilation, it will not work. You have to make sure that this particular line and then this particular line are compatible before your contract will be able to compile. All right. So let me go to Hardhat and copy this. Okay, Hacker Boost. And then I put it. Okay. Is it the right code? Okay, that is it. All right. So check something. Like I was saying, you can see that this particular line, we have 0.8.25. Meanwhile, inside the contract, we have 0.8.27. So it means that they are not compatible. We have to change here to 2.8. Let's change it to 2.8. Okay. And then the next thing to do is to get let's get the Alchemy API key. Okay, so I'll just do that quickly. I did that in the previous lesson. So I just get my API keys very quickly so that we can move ahead. Let me check something here. Let me just copy this. I didn't want us to spend time here, but we have rather spent so much time. Anyway, that's the 8:30. Maybe by 9:30 we should be done with everything. Because the front end requires a lot. Okay. What is it? Okay, I'll just go to. I wanted to find the one I used for the last session, so I just hook that one and it will save me from going to Alchemy again. The project name was called Hardhat project. Okay. So I hope you are following everything, and you should be able to build your projects using Hardhat. Hardhat is very versatile. You can have your project in it. You love it. Okay. So I hope you are not confused why we are here. I'm just looking for my Alchemy API, so I'll just use it. The one I used for the last project, that's what I'm looking for. So I'll just use it here. And then when you get to this place, you need your Alchemy API, and you also need your private key. That is the wallet or the account that you want to use to deploy the contract. You need the private key of it. And I think I showed, no problem. Let's do it again. Let's just use some few minutes to run through it. Okay. Let's use some few minutes to run through it. I use my MacBook. So I think I have the files inside the MacBook. I'm going to share Hardhat, Alchemy. Okay. So alchemy.com. Okay, so I explained to you what Alchemy is, right? So Alchemy is like an endpoint that you, just like when you build your website, you have the API, so the endpoints that you use to, fetch data or interact with your server. So the same thing, that's what Alchemy does. So Alchemy, they have nodes and they're able to run nodes on your behalf. So if you are using Alchemy, Alchemy has their own nodes that they use to run, Ethereum and all other chains that they support. So instead of you also having your own node to do whatever, you can use Alchemy service because they have the node. So you just use their service, to do the interaction. Okay. So you remember something called mining, minting, and all of that. To understand more about what Alchemy is doing, you have to know what mining is in the blockchain space. Okay. So Alchemy is mining. They are doing the mining stuffs for you, and they're also earning what's doing the mining. But you don't need to mine. You just want to interact with the blockchain. So let them do their mining. Then we use them to do our interactions. Okay, but they also earn. That's how beautiful the blockchain is. Okay, So we are using Sepulia. I know how this is done. So I'll just copy Sepulia. I'm using this one called Hardhat tutorials as my my app. So when you get here, if you don't have an app, what you need to do first on Alchemy is to create a new app. Okay. So you check at the top here, this button called create a new app. You create a new app, you give it a name, you process everything, and then you open the app that you created. So this is the app I just created called Hackaboost Tutorial. So I'll click on the endpoints. And then when you get to the endpoints, depending on what blockchain you want to deploy on. So if, for instance, we wanted to deploy on the Ethereum mainnet, look for water. So if we wanted to deploy on the Ethereum mainnet, what you need to do is that you just copy to get this link. Okay, but we are deploying on Sepulia, Ethereum Sepulia. So, or I think this one we are deploying on Arbitrum Sepulia. Let me check.
Yeah, that's the problem, sir.
Arbitrum, right?
Yes,
Okay, good. So we are deploying on Arbitrum Sepulia. So what we need to do here is to rather choose Sepulia on Arbitrum. Okay, and then we get the link here. This is the link we are using. So I just copy the link, and then I'll come back to. I'll go back to. Okay, so first let me keep it here. I'll just keep it and comment it out. And after everything, I'll send you there. So the next thing I'll do is to go to my what's the name? Go to my account and get my private e-wallet. My private key address rather. So I'm using this. Let me go to okay. So this one I'm using for the tutorials. Bitrum Sepulia. Okay, let me see if I get some. Ish, what's doing? You like okay. So you know how to get your private key. So I'm just going to copy my private key. I explained that to you last time. So get your private keys by just going to account details, then enter your password to grab your private key. Okay, so I just got my private key, and I'm going to show you. I'm going back to. I'm going back to Visual Code. Don't stop sharing this one and go back to Visual Code. Okay. Okay. So can you see my screen?
yes, please.
Okay. So now we are here. We are back again. Now check something here. When you get to this level, we could just do something like this. You know, I commented this. I'm going to comment them. We could just do something like this. Copy the one we copy from the URL we copy from Alchemy. We just delete this one and put it there. We can just delete this one and then we put it in here. Okay. Also, our private key is here. So we can just copy our private key, the one we copied. We do like this. And then we remove this one and put it like this. And we are done. When you do it this way, you are done. But who can tell me what the problem is? I need somebody to tell me what the problem is if you do it this way. Okay, Kusi. Coffee, what is the problem? Having it this
Yeah,
way.
so you are exposing your private key. So when you create this create app, people can have access to your wallet secret key.
Okay,
So you have to hide your private key.
good. But how do we do the hiding? How do we hide it?
So you can create an .m file, then
Okay,
put it
But
inside.
okay. Hafiz, you also want to contribute something?
yeah, I was going to talk about the .env.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So we use .env, that's the environment variable, or the environment file, right? We use that one to, but before you do that, you need to first get the dependency, right? Because we don't have the dependency now. When you go to package JSON, we don't have the dependency. So even if we create a .env file, we won't be able to, still use it until we get the dependency. So let's get the dependency. How do we do that? We go to the terminal and say npm install, then we call it .env. This is how we install it. So after we install, we can now use it. Let's give it some time to install. So if you don't have it, please install it before we can move along. Install.env. Okay, so .env is installed. Then the next thing to do is to call it inside our configuration file. Because if we don't call it inside, we cannot use it. So first thing, we're not going to call it now. Let's go and create the environment file. So you do that inside the root directory. So the root of your profile. So the root of your project, that's where you do it. So normally, if you want to get the root, you can just either click this at the top, this when you click on it, you click on new file. Or another thing is just step down here and make sure that everything is then new file, then we call it .env. And when you create .env, you have to see this symbol, the certain symbol, to be sure that your .env file is created successfully. All right. Then we have to define the variables, and normally you keep them as capital letters. So let's call it alchemy. Let's say alchemy, and we say API, alchemy API key, or something like this. And then the next one, we call it private key. Let's say private key. And then we do something like this. Okay. So what do we do? Let's go back to our Hardhat configuration. Okay. So over here, we could just, if you want, you can just, instead of saying API key, we can even call the URL. We can call it URL here. We can even say URL. But the only thing we want to hide here is this particular API key. So from the V2, the slash, and to this end, that is the API key. Okay, so that's what we want to hide. To do that, we just copy that line. So we copy from here to here. So we have to cut it. So I'll cut it. Then go to your .env and paste it. All right. Now we're left with the private key. Let's go back to, and then we do what? We take everything from here. Take it, then go back to env and paste it. Okay, so something like this. And then now, after having it this way, we have to do something here. So this is where your JavaScript skills will jump in. So let's remove the quotes, and bring the, is it a post, what's the name of that thing? I never forget the name. So this particular symbol, we bring this symbol. All right, but let's also bring the MV that we install. So we say require. Normally this, you bring a dependency. We say require, then we say dot env dot config, something like this. So this is how we do it. So when you do it this way, we have initialized it and we can now use it in the config file. Okay. And then now the next thing we need to do, first, make sure that, initially this particular line was inside a quotation, but we are going to call something inside here. This particular, we're going to call this one. We're going to do something like this. And if you're adding something like this, it means we are now putting JavaScript inside this particular string. So the quotation, but we have to rather change this to this particular sign. Okay. So that's why I change it to that sign. And then inside this particular one, we have to remove this quote and change it to that one. So something like this. And then the same thing, we do something like, we do like this. And then now let's do something. Let's get our environment variables. And how do we do that? Is it process.env? Process.env. So this is the standardized way how you will do it. Okay. So you need to just understand how to do this particular thing. So process.env dot the name of the name of the variable. This is the variable alchemy API key. So I'll just copy so that I don't have any typo. I copy and I come and paste it. Something like this. Then the same thing we'll do here. Process.env process.env dot private key. So let me copy it. Dot private key. Okay. So paste something like this. All right. So check it very well. We are done with the configuration. Everything is now on point. Then check first, we install the .env dependency, and then we call it inside, which is the required into bracket .env.config. And then we have this Sepulia. No, there's a problem here. Okay, we are deploying on Arbitrum Sepulia. So normally this name can confuse us. Okay, so let's just change it to something like this so that it does not confuse us. Let's say app Sepulia, something like that. So we know that whenever we are calling the command for deployment, we specify this network, app Sepulia. Okay, so this is what we'll be doing. We now have it this way. The next thing we'll be doing is to go to our deployment, go and get the deployment command and do that on our terminal. Let's go to our terminal and deploy the contract. Now everything is on point. So go and deploy. But before you deploy, make sure that you have enough, test tokens. Okay. So if you are deploying on mainnet, you make sure that you have enough, token or enough coin for deployment. If you are deploying on a test network, you have the test coins available. Okay. So I think I have an issue with my Arbitrum Sepulia. I don't know what is going on. It's doing it's loading continuously. So let me check something. If it's not working, I'll have to switch to a different wallet and use it instead of this one. Okay, but let me check it first. Let me do something first. Okay. So let's go and deploy. How do we deploy? So you call the command, the deployment command. If you check on Hardhat, or on Hackaboost, the command is provided there. The command that you use to deploy. Okay. So another thing I'll tell you is that this particular command is provided by the Hardhat framework. So the developers of the Hardhat framework has given you a command to use for your deployment. So after you do your configurations and whatever, just go and look for the right command that you will use to do your deployment, and you deploy. Normally, if you want to learn more about it, no problem. But sometimes you don't need to, waste your time trying to understand why they say this and that, because that is their framework, and you want to use it to achieve your particular, to achieve something. Okay. But if you want to deploy, you want to learn more too, there's no problem. But they have their command, provider has the command. Let's copy the command. We go to our terminal and paste it. Now let me explain to you this command. We just copy and paste. But there is something that you should take note. When you paste your command like this, you have to make sure that it says npx hardhat ignition deploy. So this is the command, ignition deploy. Then first we go into the folder or the directory called ignition/models. So that is where we have our deployment script inside the models. And then when you get into the models, we are looking for the file name. So this is very critical. If you don't select the right file name here, your deployment will not work. So here it says deploy, deploy donation contract.js. Is that the name? Let's check. Deploy donation contract.js. That is the right name. Okay. Then we call the network. So there was a problem here. Okay. This is the name of the network, not localhost. So if you are deploying on localhost, it means you are deploying on the framework, that is the Hardhat framework. But rather we are deploying this particular network. So we copy it, and instead of localhost, we put this one. Oh. So instead of localhost, we put, because this is where we are deploying. We are deploying to this particular network. So we call app Sepolia, all right? And then after doing that, what should we do next? I think we are done. So next thing is, let's click on enter. And then if everything is on point, our deployment will work, or we expect an error. So let's go. Let's wait for deployment. Okay, so do you confirm deploy to network app Sepolia? Yes, that's where we want to deploy to. So you can see that the chain is here, 421614. So make sure that that's the right chain that you want to deploy. Then we say yes by clicking Y. So I just click on Y to say yes, and then deploying. Let's wait to see. Executing. Great. So our deployment is successfully. You can see the deployment successfully deployed. Okay. So you can say hooray. That means everything is on point. Okay. So guys, let me explain some few things to you. Then we'll move to the front end. When you get to this level, you are now ready for your front end. So everything about your contract is now okay. Let's go to the front end, create the user interface that people can now make use of our contract. So that's what we're doing next. Okay. So what do we need from here to go to the front end? First thing first, after you deploy, make sure that you check your contract address to be sure that you have really deployed to the next, the right network. And this is the contract address. This is the contract address. Let's copy it. We contract address in our front end. If not, we cannot interact with the contract. So let's copy the contract address. But first, after we copy, we'll go to, let's go to, what's the name? Let's go to Arbitrum Sepolia, that the Abiscan. Let's go and check it on Abiscan. All right, so I'm going to share Abiscan to you. Let's go to Abiscan. Then open Abiscan. So Abiscan. So how interesting. What is it? Abiscan. Okay. Great. So share this one. Okay. So check something. Open Abiscan. And you know why we are going to Abiscan? If this was ITA, let's say if this was Sepolia or Optimism or wherever we deploy to, you have to go to the particular chain, scan. But because we deployed on Arbitrum, we have to go to Abiscan. And then when you are going, you have to also be specific. Which Abiscan are you going? Is it the Sepolia or the main Abiscan? We are going to the Sepolia Abiscan, right? So we can select this one. You can check here, Sepolia Abiscan. So we go to Sepolia Abiscan. And we go there with our contract address that we got from our deployment. Okay. So let's confirm something. I just paste it here. I paste the contract address and then I search for it. So it's checking. Verification success. Good. So you can see something here. Contract creator. Okay, so this is my address. So this is the owner of the contract, the person that deployed it. And you can see my address there. All right. And if I click on it, I can see not my address, but rather let me click on this hash, the transaction hash, and you can see the contract was deployed 3 minutes ago on February 8th, 2025, 9:01 p.m. and all of that. So every information, and this is, if this was on the mainnet, this will be there permanently. Until the internet stops working, it is not stopping, or it's not going to be erased because it will always be on the blockchain. All right. So, but this is on the test network. So this is not permanent. But if this was on the mainnet, it's going to be permanent forever and ever. Okay. So when you go, anyone that now gets your contract address, the person can go to the scan and check your contract. The person can even audit your contract because that particular contract will be there forever and ever. It is transparent. All right. Now we need the contract address, and then we also need the ABI to go to the front end. So guys, now let's go to the front end. I'm going to create a new folder called front end. I don't know where I should create it here. No, I'm not going to create it. I'll create a separate folder to handle that. Anyway, let's check on Hackaboost to see what we have there. So now we are going to the next stage, which is the front end aspect. So Osman, I hope you are here. Osman is not.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. All right. So we are moving to the front end side, and I'm sure that I remember yesterday we were having some issues with that. So let's go and do it. Okay. So decentralized donation app project. This is the front end. All right. So you can read some, I think we have some information about it and all of that. So this one talks about ETS.js, okay, Alchemy and all of that. So to start building your front end, you have to know what ETS.js is. So in the front end, EthasJS acts like Alchemy in the backend. Okay, so if you had the time we're deploying our smart contract on the blockchain, we needed Alchemy so that we can interact with the blockchain. And then now when you move to the front end, you need libraries like EthasJS, Web3.js, and many others. They are there, but the most, the popular one that we use are EthasJS and Web3.js. Okay, but for this tutorial, we're going to be using EthasJS. Now, EthasJS is a library that will help you to connect your front end to the blockchain. And then it is able to communicate with your blockchain using the API. So the API, the application binary interface. So whenever you compile an instant, like a JSON, the JSON nature of your contract will be created. And then this is what the library will rely on, to be able to, communicate with your contract. So that's what we're doing. Okay. So let's go. I'm going to stop sharing this. Then I'll create a new folder to handle that. Okay, so now move to the front end. You should move to the front end because everything we'll be doing everything on the front end now. So make sure that you get to the front end, and then I'll share my terminal with you. I'll start everything from afresh. Share my terminal. Okay. So where is it? Okay. So let me zoom it. Let me zoom so you can check. All right. So now when you go to HackerBoost, what is the first step? So on HackerBoost introduction, in this lesson, we will set up our front end project using Next.js. Okay. So if you know how to use React, that is React.js, Next.js should be very easy for you to use. Okay. So the difference is not that much. Okay. The reason why we're using Next.js for this particular project is that if you get yourself used with Next.js, you can even build your backend in your front end. Like Next.js is very dynamic. You can use it for many things. And also, I like Next.js very well. Using TypeScript with Next.js is very compatible and all of that. So I encourage you guys to, focus on Next.js. Because Next.js, to me, Next.js is like an upgrade of React. Okay. So it's good that you get yourself with Next.js. And even the HackerBoost platform itself, everything was built with Next.js and TypeScript. All right, so let's go and use Next.js. How do we do that? I'm going to, I just open my terminal. I'll do this inside the my document folder. Okay. Then the first line, it says that initializing a new Next.js project. So you open your terminal and navigate to the directory where you want to create your project. And I want to create a project inside documents directory. That's where I just open. Then I will create a new Next.js project using the following command. Now, this particular command, we got it from the Next.js document. So when you go to Next.js doc, this is the same command they have. The only difference you are seeing here is the name of the project that we are building on HackerBoost. So we just copy it like this, and then I'll go and paste it. So the name of the project will be called the centralized donation app. But I already have the centralized donation app. So to make it, to differentiate it, maybe I'll add something like centralized donation front end. or client. Let me say client. Okay. So you know this. Okay. The reason is that the Hardhat project, the name was called Centralized Donation App, and it was inside this documents folder. So what it means is that if I'm using the same, there will be conflict. So I have to change it this way. So I'll be able to, get them in the same folder. Okay. So you can do it anyway. You can even name yours with your name, any how you want to have it, that depends on you. Then I say create. All right. So let's wait for it to. So will you like to use TypeScript? Let me see. We are using JavaScript. I don't know. Guys, is it JavaScript or TypeScript we use for the? Let me check whether it was JavaScript or TypeScript. Okay, it was JavaScript. All right, sure. So we are using JavaScript. And then now check something here. I was telling you, anytime you are initializing, you have to be very careful. Will you like to use TypeScript? And yes, it's already selected. The reason is that I've been using TypeScript for my projects. That's why you can check that. By default, yes, it's selected. But in this project, I don't want to use TypeScript. So what I need to do is to change it to no. So I have to change it to no. And to do that, this one you use, your arrows, the arrow keys on your keyboard. So I change it to no and press on enter. Would you like to use Excellent? No. I'll say no. I want to use it. Would you like to use Tailwind CSS? Yes, my favorite. I like Tailwind. So we're going to use Tailwind. We select yes. Would you like your code inside? No. So this one, guys, you understand when these are just some, the structure. You want to define the structure of your project. So the way I want my structure to be will not be the same way you want your structure to be. But at the end of the day, just understand what you are doing. That's the most important thing. So somebody may select yes to have everything inside the SRC. But I don't do that, so I'll select no. Okay. Will you like to use app router? Yes. No. Double path, no. Yes, this one, I'll say yes. So guys, get it. Just make sure that you know what we are doing here. So would you like to customize the imports or alias this and this? Yes, I'll say yes. No. Let's select no. We are not using it. So we'll say no. Okay. Then let's see what the next thing it says initializing project with template app, this and this. So let's wait for this to be initialized. So once it is initializing, let me grab water. Come. Okay. So success, initialization is done. Okay. So we have our work now. Let's go to VS Code. I'm doing this on my terminal. I'm now going to use, so I'm going to CD inside the centralized client. So I'll CD to the folder. Then I open this on VS Code. Okay, so now let me stop sharing this one and share my VS Code rather. I'll share my VS Code. All right. So let me zoom it for you guys to see. Okay. So I think this is better. Okay. So check something. We now have our project initialized and all the vital files are inside. You can check we have the app. So personally, I like using app when I'm building with Next.js. Okay, that's the what's the name that they say application what and what. And there are different ways on Next.js. All right. So we have app and everything. Now let's go back to HackerBoost. We have a direction we are following, so we don't miss anything. So after that, setting up your project, open the app/pages.js and set up state hooks to store the total donations and the list of donors. So if you are tired, or if you are dozing, grab some coffee. Or this is where we'll be talking a lot. We need to understand distance. If you don't get this, you're always going to have a problem with your front end. So we have to get this side. So grab some coffee and let's get to work. Okay. So there are some libraries we have to install first, or some dependencies we didn't install them. So you know that I told you about ETS.js. So we have to install ETS.js. If you don't have ETS.js, you won't be able to, interact with your MetaMask. So let's get ETS.js installed. How do we do that? npm install ETS. That is how you do it. npm install ETS. So check, I'm doing it right now. npm install ETS. All right. So this is what we're going to do. npm install ETS. And then so after that, we have something on HackerBoost. I want to show you this thing. It's very important. I know how to come in. There's step 3. So when you open HackerBoost, that is lesson 3.1. This particular section, that's step 3. Okay, step 3, which says setting up the basic folder structure. It's very important. Let's get this done. And I also recommend that when you get to a hackathon, you try to make sure that you set your folder, your project structure, something like this. Because when you get it this way, you are able to just build your project very quickly. So you guys check step 3 on HackerBoost, the Hardhat. That's lesson 1. Model, what is that? The donation, model 3, donation app front end interface. Lesson 3.1, then step 3. We have a folder structure. We make sure that we get this folder structure before we move on. So if you don't have this structure, if you don't get this structure, it will be very difficult. And how are we going to do it? It says that to keep our project organized, we will create folders for components and pages. So inside your project /app folder, create the following structure. And the first folder to create is called the components. So let's do it. So inside this particular folder, we create the components folder. So components, and then inside the components folder, we have these particular components. So first component is the header. And you know what the header is? Every website has a header. That is where your menu, your navigation, and all of that takes place. So we're going to have the header.js. So let's create it. Header.js. Header.js. The next one, footer.js. You know what the footer is. So footer.js. We need this one too. Then we also need wallet connect. So the wallet connect component, that is where we'll keep our code for connecting our front end to our wallet. Okay. So we need to hello guys, are you there? Let me see thumbs up if you guys are following. Okay, good. Sure. So let's go. So we need to have the folder structure this way. Okay. Okay, I'm back. We are done with the footer.js. The next one is which one? Okay. Okay. Wallet connect. So wallet connect .js, something like this. And the next component is donation form. So the donation form, somebody is going to donate. The person will open a form, will be there for the person to put the amount and submit. So that's the component, donation form. So personally, this is how I built my front-end projects. I first define the structure of my my project by first thinking about what components do I need. So you think about the components you need, then you create a folder called the components, and then you put the structure. As you are moving along, you might change them. But now, when you get the first plan, the first structure, it guides you on how you do everything. So normally, this is very good to start with. Okay. So let's go with the donation. It says donation form .js. And the last component, withdraw funds. Okay. So we are doing this based on the contract or based on the project logic. You remember that we had a function called withdraw, and we also have a function called donate, but you cannot do all of it if you don't connect your wallet or your front end to your wallet. Okay, so just look at this. Then you also need to have some things inside the header, maybe the connect button, navigate to donate, this and this. So you have to get a header. The last thing is a footer. Maybe you know what a footer is. You want to get some additional information and display on your footer. All right. So this is why we have these particular components. Withdraw funds.js. Withdraw funds.js. Okay, so we are done with the structure. And then, okay, we're also going to have pages. So this is the interesting thing about Next.js. Okay, so inside the app, close this one. So the components, whenever you create something like this, you create, let's just do it. Let's finish this structure. Check the structure. The next thing to do is /donate. So that means we should create a donate folder still inside the app folder. And then inside that particular donate folder, we're going to create a file called page.js. So let's do that before I explain what I was going to say. So folder, this one will be folder, not a file. Then we'll call it donate. All right, so something like this. And then now inside the donate, we create a file called page.js. Look, take note, the page starts with small p. If you do it capital P, it won't work. So the standardized way in Next.js is small p. Don't make a mistake and do it capital P. You have a problem later. So page.js, then we click enter. The next one is also inside the file, we create a folder called withdraw, a folder, not an app. So a folder called withdraw. And then inside that particular folder, we create a file called page.js, page.js, something like this. All right. So do that. Now, when you get this, take note, anytime inside the app, anytime you create a folder, and then inside that particular folder, you create something called page.js, it becomes a page, an independent page. Okay, so if this was React, you don't do it this way. In React, I think React has something called, if I can remember my React, can I even remember again? Because it's been a long time I use React, unless I go and check. But React, you have to create the, the page, and then you use something they call the React something, you create, and then you now, I forgot of that thing. You use it to, hook to your pages and all of that. But Next.js has made it very simple to just, create a folder, then inside the folder, create a file called page.js, and that becomes a page. So you can navigate this page. So anytime you navigate on your terminal, anytime you have something like, let's say, localhost, slash 3000, then slash app, slash donate, this will open a page. And then when you also have something like this, slash withdraw, this will open a page. But when you don't do like this and you have it like this goes to the home page. All right, so we're going to see everything in action. Let's check. So if you have it this way, explanation of the structure. All right, so this is what I was just explaining. It says this folder will contain reusable components like the header, donation, what and what. Next.js uses the app directory routing. So this is what I was trying to explain or mention to you guys. App directory routing. So there's another routing on Next.js, but we're going to be using the app directory routing, which is very simple to use, and to automatically generate routes. Like I was saying, anytime you do something like this, automatically you have generated a route. So on React, you're going to use the React router, something. Hence there's this thing called the browser router, and then inside the browser router, you now call the routes, the what and what to get your pages and all of that on React. But that is not same on Next.js. On Next.js, you just do it this way, which automatically creates your app for you. So the default page.js inside the app directory will serve as the home page for displaying donation, statistics and all of that. All right, so let's move to lesson 3.2, which says that in this lesson, we will set up MetaMask wallet connection functionality in our Next.js app using ethers.js. This will allow users to connect their wallets, authenticate, and interact with the blockchain. And then step 1, setting up the wallet connection component. Okay, so we already created a file inside the components folder called walletconnect.js. Then we're going to add the following code to that particular folder. Now let's add the code before I explain the code to you. So check something. If you are creating a front-end project, we have pages and we have components. You need to understand this very well to call yourself a front-end developer. So if you already know this better, if you don't know it, I recommend that you spend some time to understand what a component is and what a page is. Okay, because this is where everything will fall in if you get to understand these few things. All right, so we are creating the wallet connect component. So this is a component, and the folder you are seeing here, or the code inside lesson 3.2, we have a boilerplate code there. This particular code will be used to connect our front end to our wallet. All right, so I'll copy it and paste it, and I'll explain to you what it means? Do we have time for the explanation? Anyway, I'll just do something few. I just run through some few lines. Okay. All right, so I copied that one and then I'll go and open components. Then wallet connect.js. Then I'll paste it. I'll paste it here. So you remember that when we, especially who, we were able to build this particular thing with the students. And then I think that was Legon to we built same thing. I don't know why we did this. We were able to do this in Kumasi. Yes. So this is very simple to understand. What we are doing here, normally, I will also recommend you guys to go to MetaMask. They have their doc session. I think that was where I got some of this code. They have provided you with this. For instance, this connect function to connect MetaMask wallet. When you go to MetaMask document, they have provided you with this functions or these things that you can use. The only thing you need to do is that you think about how do I now use it on my own project, okay? But this is provided already on the MetaMask documentary. Okay, now explaining some few things to you. This particular component will help us to connect our front end to our MetaMask wallet. And you can see the first line, use client. Now, on Next.js, we have a server-side component, and then we also have the client-side component. So a server-side component in Next.js can be something like this. So this page.js, this one, when we define the code inside here, this is a server-side component. So until this particular component runs, some things inside there will not be, will not get data or will not be able to run. So they normally call this the server side, and then now all the components inside all these particular files inside the components are files that will only get data or that will only be able to run after the main page is run. So we have these components, and then we have this particular page here called so this particular page you are seeing here is a server side, and that is why you don't see use client on it, because anytime you call this app, this particular page will have to run first. Then after it is run, you can now be able to use these components inside the the app. So the components inside here are use client or sorry, client side components, and that is why you see this particular thing. So even if you are creating your application on Next.js and you create, a client side component, and you don't put the use client, you'll get an error and you'll be triggered to, get this particular line before that particular component can work. All right. And then we also imported React. Then inside React, we are using these particular hooks. They use state and then they use effect hooks from React. That's what we'll be using in this particular component. Then we also imported etest.js. That is the etest from etest.js. So this is how you import etest to be used in your component. So import and you destructure etest. So the structuring where you grab only etest, because this is an entire library. It contains a whole lot. And inside the library, we only need this particular thing called etest. That's what we're using. So destruction needs to happen. Okay. And then we have our first function called wallet connect function. So check here. This is the function that we are interested in. This function will help us to connect our front end to our wallet. Okay. So let's check some few things inside the component. It's a component. So we have the use state line, wallet address, set wallet address. So guys, I won't be able to explain everything to you guys because we don't have much time, but just take your time. I'm going to run through it very quickly. Maybe when we meet in person, we're going to write this from scratch to the end. You get to understand the logic, the entire logic. But sometimes if you have not written something like this, when you see it like this, it might look somehow confusing, especially some of these things we are seeing here were grabbed from the MetaMask documentary. So I need to just run through it quickly for you guys to understand. Okay, so we have a use state line here. And what this use state line does is that first, when you have your app which is not connected, you will not see any address. But we are using this particular use state to grab the address so that we can display it on the front end. And you know how the hook works. So this is a function. So we call it, this is the setter or something function in React, okay? And this particular thing is a variable. So this is a variable, and this particular function is used to set or to manipulate this particular variable. So whenever the connection is done, we grab the address using this particular function. We use it to grab the address, then we assign it to this particular wallet address so that we can now display this wallet address variable on the front end. So that is why anytime you open a DeFi or a decentralized application website, there is a button at the top that says the connect wallet. And when you click on connect wallet, your MetaMask will open. Then you process to connect your wallet. And after you connect your wallet, something will now display which shows your address. You now see the address displayed. Now, this is how they do it. So anytime you see something like that, just know that this is how they do it. The use state will be waiting for the connection to done. And the moment it is done, you can check something here, set wallet. You can check something here. The moment the connection is done, then you take the address, set wallet address, which is a function for the use state. Then you assign the account address to that particular, you give it out, you pass it into the function, and then the function will use to manipulate and assign the value to this particular variable. Okay, and then now when we are calling everything on our front end to show our address, we now use this particular one to show. That is how it is done. So inside this particular component, we have a function called the connect wallet function. Okay, so this is the function we'll call to do our connection. And inside here, there's this particular line, which is very important. So if you have, a newly downloaded, browser, or even a browser that you have never used MetaMask on, or let me just say that you don't even have MetaMask installed on your browser. That means that you don't even have a wallet that you can connect a decentralized application to, okay? So you need to have this particular line. And what this line does is that it says that if type of window.ethereum is not, or, is not undefined. So let me explain what this line means to you. What it does is that it will first check to see whether the particular browser, so that's why you can say window.ethereum. So it will check the window to see whether Ethereum, any particular instance of Ethereum wallet is present. Okay, so when it check and it is undefined, means that nothing like that it is there. Nothing like that is there. It has to tell you here that it will alert you, please install MetaMask. But if it is there, then move into and perform this particular logic. So that is how simple it is. You can even take it off. But if you still take it off, your function will work. The only thing is that if you take this thing off, it means that it is not going to check to see whether the particular browser has an Ethereum wallet in it. Okay, but if you put it up like this, it will always check the user browser. And if the user does not have any Ethereum wallet, it will alert the person that please install MetaMask. You can even say install wallet. It will just tell the person that install MetaMask, That means that the person can install MetaMask. Okay. And then we have this, it's a request access if needed. So const accounts, we create a variable await window.ethereum.request. So this is what EthexJS has provided for us to use. Okay. So if you want to now get the accounts from the wallet, after it checks in this line to ensure that a MetaMask wallet is present, it moves here to this line and then create a variable and request that you want to grab, the address, or you want to connect to that particular wallet so that you can use, the address. So all of this thing, you can find it inside MetaMask documentary. Okay. So window.ethereum.request, then you pass in request accounts. And this will request that to open your MetaMask and says that, do you want to connect this particular application or this particular contract so to your app? And when you say yes, you see that your application will now be connected. So the same thing is working on Hackables. Remember, if you finish your your course and then you want to mint your certificate, first a pop-up comes and say connect your wallet, and there's a button. You click on it and your MetaMask will open. The same thing you are seeing here, nothing different. All right. So you can see how easy this particular thing is. The same line of code. The moment you click on it, this particular function will be called. That is the connect wallet function. You step in, you open your MetaMask wallet, then it asks you to connect, you click on connect. And when you click on connect, the use state will grab the accounts. So anytime you have a MetaMask, you can have many accounts. That is many different accounts inside your MetaMask wallet. But the account you are currently, on will be the index 0. So when you connect your app to that particular wallet, all the available accounts will come in the form of array. But the reason why we have here accounts and then we are using this box bracket inside and then we pass 0, you know what this thing, it means that the accounts comes in a form of array. And then inside the array, we are only interested in the account that is currently active. So we have to use the 0, we have to pass 0 in. So we don't need all the accounts that will be bad, just the one which is active. Okay. Then we grab it and give it to this. And then now let's check here. Handle accounts changes. So this particular thing is very important. In some applications, they don't have it. But if you don't have it, doesn't mean that your app will not work. But I have to tell you why this is very important. So this is important because if you have this particular function, so again, this was provided by MetaMask, but I only added this use state. You can check here, this use state. I only added because I know what I was doing, so I need to just add the use state so I can use it to do my things. Okay, so this particular function, what it does is that anytime the person who is connected to his wallet, so if somebody is using your application, that's your decentralized application, and the person was connected to a particular account, but maybe he wants to do a transaction and there's no funds inside the account, he wants to change to a different account. The moment the person opens his MetaMask and change to a different account, automatically the application will refresh. That's why it is kept inside a use state, so a use effect. And you know what a use effect hook is. The moment something happens, it triggers and it refresh, but it does that on the virtual machine. It triggers and refresh, and these particular set wallets, which is inside the hook, will call again. And when you call it here, what happens? It takes the active one. So that is the one you just changed to. It will grab that one and reassign it to the variable or the wallet address. So if this one was assigned to maybe a different address and you change this one and grab that one, give it to it, and it will refresh. So the same thing happened. When we move further, you will check to know. The handle account changes. Okay. Then what happens? We return, this is a component. So inside the component, we now show a div. Okay. So this is just HTML. So inside there, we now have this HTML, simple HTML. and then we say, is wallet address, do we have any value inside the wallet address? If yes, then show this one, show this particular paragraph, connected wallet, and then we display the wallet address. Else, if we don't have any value inside the wallet address, then show a button, and the button will be called, okay. So show a button which is called connect a wallet. So this is just simple thing. Okay, let's move. We have spent so much time here. Let's move to the next component. So this particular component is what you use to connect your application to your wallet. So let's even delete this one. We don't need it here. We'll need it later in a different component. The ethers, we don't need it here. So you can even delete it. Okay, now let's move to the next stage. The next stage says what? Adding the wallet connect component to your app. So open pages/index.js or whichever page you want to display the wallet connection. Import and use the wallet connect component. Okay, so let's look at our project structure and then check what it is telling us to do. It says that open pages/index. Where is pages/index? Where is it? Can we find it? No? Good. So this is a different version. So pages/index means that we are talking about this one. We are talking about this. That's the main page. So in some previous versions, it used to call index, but now it is called page.js, and that is the only way you can identify that it is the main, the main folder or the main component rather, is to check where it is positioned. So it is positioned just inside the app. So this is the main component that we are using. Okay. So instead of, I'll change this one later. So instead of open pages.index.js, we are rather opening this particular one. So we rather open this one. And then it says what? Import wallet connect from components wallet. So when we open it, we import the wallet connect component inside it. Please, are you following?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good. So let's import it inside there to use it. Import, what's the name? It is called wallet connect. Okay, so the lazy way of coding, instead of writing everything, I just follow the, but I make sure that I'm doing the right thing. Wallet connect inside components. So that is right. Wallet connect inside components. So it is imported. Okay. Then I think we are done. So this is something we need to do. Okay. Let's just copy the entire code, the one provided on Hackaboos. Let's copy it. That is the step 2, adding the wallet connect component to your app. So let's copy it and then delete everything here and paste it. So stuff like this. So it says, well, what this does, the wallet connect component will allow users to connect their MetaMask wallet and display the connected wallet address on the home page. Okay, so we'll check it later, but let's just run something before we move to the next lesson. Let's now run this application. Let's run it. So you know how to run npm run dev. This is how we run the app, npm run dev. Okay. All right, so on localhost, then I'll now open it here. So hold on. It is opening. I'll show you after opening, I'll show you what we have there. Okay. What do you say? Let me see. Okay, so there's an error. There's an error. Let me show you what the error is. Good. Come so that we can resolve it together. Let me come. I don't know. Let me display my screen. Let me stop sharing and I'll share this one. I want to show you the error. So we resolve it together. Okay. So what is it? This is it. Okay. So we have this particular error. It says that failed to compile. App pages what and what. Module not found. Can't resolve components wallet, this and this. Good. Do you know the reason why we have this? Anyone willing to tell me why we have this particular error? Okay, so check something. The reason is that the path here is wrong. It says import wallet from ... Okay, so this is wrong. We have to have only one dot. Okay, to confirm that, let's check something. When you do something like this, when you do dot slash, we get components, and we only need the particular we only need it inside the components. So we have to get component. Then we do slash again. And when we do slash, we have it like this. So the dot here was wrong. Now, if you have dot, let's see where it will send us to. Dot this. See where it is sending us to. So you cannot find even components here. We can't find components unless we say something like this. Then we do something like this. Then we say like this. Then we do like this. Then we say this, which is just long talks. All right. But when you now do this, it will compile and it will run. When you do it this way, it will run. Anyway, let's not do it that way. Let's say this, then we'll get the components. This, then we get wallet connect. And that is done. That is okay now. But do we have any error again? No, we don't. Good. So can you guys see what we have so far? So this is what we have so far. Our application is getting ready.
Say you are sharing
I think
the
the browser rather VS Code.
Okay, I'm coming. Okay. So this is what we have now so far.
All along, I was thinking it's the network.
Okay. No. Can you see what we have so far?
Yeah, we had to.
Yes. So the reason why we have welcome to decentralized donation app is just that when you check inside our main page, so this is displaying because we have inside our main page. Check here. I wish there was a way I could just be sharing. I think I have to share windows instead of or entire screen. This will mess up things. Come. Okay. So now inside our main page, this is what we have. Header 1. Welcome to the decentralized donation app. Okay. So, and then we imported wallet. And then we just display the wallet inside. Okay. So if we do something like this, then let me comment it out. I'm going to share both screens so that you can now be seeing I think the current sharing is not good. So okay. So check something. When we commented this out, we didn't have the button showing again. The reason why we don't have the button showing is because we have the button inside. We have the button from the wallet connect, which was here. So this is the button, div wallet connect, something like that. And then we say that the logic was this: we use conditionals to display the button. So the conditionals was what? First condition, let's check, do we have any value inside the wallet variable? So where's the wallet variable? It is inside here, the use state, which is currently empty because we are not connected. So it is currently null. So anytime you have a use state, the value here is like just saying that. So it's like when we have something like const wallet address, something like this, wallet address is equal to null. So it's like this. Okay. So anytime you have something like this, it's the same thing as having, a use state which has a value of null. So the current value for the wallet address, I know some people you already know this, but for the sake of those who are yet to understand, who are learning this, let me just take some time to explain it. All right. Normally, when you know something and somebody explain it, it looks like the person is wasting your time. So the null here is assigned to this wallet, variable. Okay. So that is how it is. And then now we are saying that first, let's check. Do we have any value currently? No, we don't have a value. It is currently null. So if it is currently null, then don't display wallet connected with the wallet, but rather display a button. And then the button will be called connect a wallet. But this particular button also has, an on-click function. And the on-click function takes the value of the connect wallet function that we created. Okay, so this particular thing is very interesting. All right, so the button is there. We are not yet connected. Okay, then show us a button. That button will be a way that we can now, follow to connect. All right, now the button is there, and the button has an on-click function, and the on-click function takes the function that we created at the top here. It takes this particular function called the connect wallet function. So what it means is that, okay, we are not connected, but now when you click on it, you should be able to call a function that will help you to connect your app to. So let me uncomment this one. Let me uncomment it. Then it will display. Okay, so we are not yet connected to any wallet, but we have a button. And when we click on this button, the on-click function will help us to call a particular function that will help our app to connect to our wallet. Okay, so let's try something here. Let me try it. Let's click on it to see whether it is functioning. Let's click, and you can see MetaMask is opening. Good. And it says what? Connect with MetaMask. So when we say connect, let's see what will happen. So I'm going to say connect. Connect. And you can see now connected wallet, and my address is showing. See how interested this particular thing looks like. Is sometimes I like it. I like front end. The reason is that when you are doing front end, you see the things falling down for you, and you are feeling what you are doing. The vibe is coming. Unlike the back end or the content, you are still developing, and some things might even be going messy, and you don't know Well, but the front end, anytime you are doing something, you know what you are doing because you are seeing everything happening, feel, right? So that is what we have here. That's what we have here. We are not yet connected. So show a button. But when we are now connected, if there is now a value inside the wallet connect, then show this particular line, which is just a paragraph, connected wallet. And then the inside that particular, key element, we grab the variable and we display it. So this is how it is displayed. So this particular display here is what is showing us this, this address. Okay. So let's move ahead. We are done with the first stage. Let's move to the next stage. I hope you are getting this because by next month, I really would like to see you guys build stunning, DApps with front end that we'll be using. And this is just how it is done. This is how simple it is done. There's no all the big DApps you are seeing, guys. Even if they are going to do any other thing, it's just an additions. But the main structure or how they all follow, this is just the fundamental of everything how they do. So when you get to know this, just know that you are a DApp front-end developer. We can say that you know how to create front-end for DApps. There's no two way about that, right? So let's move to the next stage. And I'm going to stop showing this and I'll show one screen now. Anyway, but this is okay. Can you see both the code and then the display very well? If you can see it, I'll just leave it this way. Okay, then that's great. So that we'll be able to see what we are doing. Okay. So I'm going to Hackaboost to check what is next. Okay. I'm going to check the next thing we'll be doing. Let me see. I'm trying to get access to Hackaboost this time. So the next stage is to, what is it? Connecting the front end to MetaMask. We are done with that. Displaying donation information. Okay. So let's move to 3.3. We are now moving to 3.3. Introduction. In this lesson, we will learn how to fetch and display the total donation amount and a list of donors from our donation contract. We will also format Ethereum values and use React hooks to manage state. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the right place to go. Yes, that is it. So 3.3. Okay, so don't get confused with all of this brouhaha or this confusions sometimes. Let's go and start. So we are now creating the donation contract. The donation component. And remember, we already created a folder for it or the file name inside our structure, which was called donation. What am I talking about, guys? I feel like I'm confused, so hold on. Let me get myself together. Okay. So we are now moving to setting up our hooks, which is 3.3, right? So in this lesson, we will fetch and display the total donation, on our front end. So what do? We open app/pages.js, okay, and set up state hooks to store the total donations and the list of donors. Okay, so what you need to do here is that just copy this code we have here. Copy this code we have here. That is in 3.3. Okay, so you copy it and then you go back to your pages. That is the app/pages, the main page, the one that we displayed. Welcome to the donation app. That is where you go to. And then when you get there, what we need to do is delete everything. So check what I will do here. Just select everything and delete it. No, make sure you are doing that inside the main page. So here. Then we do. Now I will explain to you what we are doing. After I paste it, I'll explain to you because we are just adding some features to. And the reason is that we don't want to waste time typing every feature. Okay, so this is why we have to just clean this one and put the new one there. But the new one we are putting there is the same code, it's just an addition of code into this particular present one. So that's what we are doing. Okay, so when you get here, you will remember that you will realize that the current code we have here is inside this particular boiler code, okay, but with some additions. So let me just copy, and then I'll delete this one and paste the copied one. And let me see whether we still have it. Let me check something. Okay, we have errors. I like that. We have some errors. And why do we have errors? Let's check to see. What is it saying? It says fail to compile. Model not found. Can't resolve. Okay. So can't resolve artifacts, contract, this and this and this. Good. So we are now going to do something here. The reason why we are having this particular this particular problem is that we don't have a folder called artifacts. And you know what this artifacts folder is. I already explained it to you. When we compile our contract, there was a newly created folder called artifacts. And inside that folder, we have some information that we'll be using here. So we have to go and grab it. Okay. We have to go and grab that folder. So we can either copy the entire folder or we can do something here. Now, I don't want us to copy the entire folder. I want us to do something. Okay. And I hope that will not confuse you. I want us to do something. So take your time. Just follow me and let's see what we'll be doing here. So instead of going to copy the entire folder, we are going to do something here. I'll create let me see. I'll create something. I'll create a folder called utils. So just create a folder called utils. And you know what utils is. And create it inside file. Check something. Check the structure. Create it inside the file folder. And we call it utils. Then inside the utils, we're going to create something called the ABI. So ABI file. I'll do this and say ABI dot.json. It should be JSON. So ABI.json. Please take note. You can still do it this way, but I'm making it this way. I'm trying to make it simple for you so that when you are creating your app, you can easily do your thing without going to copy all this, giving your code some unnecessary resources that you'll be putting inside your project. So let's just do some ABI.json, and then we do something like this. Okay. So when you have ABI.json, let's get the data for it. Let's go back to our Hardhat project. That is the contract project. Let's go back there. You remember I was telling you that we'll come back here. So we are back. And then we open the artifacts folder. Then we move to contracts, the artifacts. Inside artifacts, we move to the contracts folder. Then we look for the donation contract.json. We open it. And then we look for the ABI. Okay. And this ABI, we are not supposed to copy with this name called ABI. We don't need it. So we are copying only the array, the open. So it's an array. We just do this way. Then we copy to this side. I'll copy this way. So make sure you don't copy with this API. If not, your function, your app will not run. So don't copy with this. I'll go back to our front-end project. And then inside the file I created called ABI.json, I will paste it. I'll pay this one. Check something. I just pasted the ABI or the JSON that I created. I just pasted it inside the ABI.json file. You can check it. All right. And then after doing it this way, we'll go back to our main page. We are going to resolve this particular error. We are going to resolve it now. So let's go back to our main page, and here import donation contract ABI. So instead of we importing it from artifact/contract/donation contract so donation what and what, this is what we are not going to do. We'll now do something like, let me just clean everything from here. I'll clean it. And then I'll now get it from ABI.json. Okay, but I can't get it this way because it is inside the utils. So I need to do something like this to see if I'll get the utils. Good. So this is the utils folder. And then inside the utils, I will get the ABI. So was it inside there? So inside utils, let me check something. So utils, and then inside utils, we have the ABI.json. Okay, so that's what you do. Let's do it inside utils. Come. I like it when it suggests. All right, so ABI.json, something like this. Okay, then you can see that the error is gone. Okay, so check something. The error is now gone. And then also another problem is that we have here, check something. We have here the contract address. Should we leave it this way? Okay, for contract address, there's no problem. We can leave it this way. But if you also like, you will not leave your contract address this way. You can just create maybe a JSON somewhere and grab it. But for the sake of this, we leave it this way. A contract address is already public. So you don't even have a problem when you leave it this way. All right. Just that, when you are, so here, replace with your contract address. Now let's go and replace this one with our contract address. You remember when we deploy our contract, there was a contract address. And I told you that you'll be needing that contract address later. So I'll go back to get that particular contract address. And it is here. Hey, look, the moment you deploy, make sure that you copy it and put it at a safe place. So even if your program closes or something, you can still be able to get your contract address. Okay. So now we replace here with our contract address. All right. Okay. And you can see there was an error here. It has gone. So the reason why it is gone is because this particular contract address is now compatible with the ABI that we just imported into the project. And you can now see what we have here. Welcome to the decentralized donation app. Then we have the connect button. Total donations, 0. List of donors, 0. Okay. So let me show you something. There is a magic here. And then we have a function called fetch donation information. And this is where we now use etest.js. So check at the top, we have the etest.js, which we are now using inside here. Now, let me tell you something. When you connect your application to your MetaMask wallet, you need to do something. Why are you connecting? You want to be able to, make a donation. And then also when people donate, you want to show that those that donate. So anytime somebody gets onto your homepage, there are some information that you want to show. First thing is that you want to show a button so that the person can be able to connect the application to his wallet to be able to make donation, right? That's the first thing you want to show. Second thing you want to show is that anytime somebody visits your application, you want to show that so far, this is the total amount of money that your applications have gotten from donations. You want to show the total, that is the total donation so far that your application has gotten. Also, you want to show the donors. So if somebody donates, you'll be able to grab the person's address. So you are not showing their names because, when you interact with the blockchain, your address will only be the one that will be stored, okay? So anyone that interacts with your contract, you can still query and get their addresses and put it on your front end. So anytime somebody visits your front end, the person should be able to see this particular information: who has donated so far and how much has been donated to the contract. So that's what we are just doing here, okay? Because the reason why we are doing this here is that this is our homepage, and we want to show this information on our homepage. We are not interested in showing the donation button or the withdraw button for now, but rather on the homepage, we just want to show this thing for now. And that is what is happening. Okay. So aside this, let's check something. Let's go to the next step. Okay, and you can now see here we have fetch donation information. This is a function that will be able to fetch the information from the blockchain. And what does it do? You know what this line is. If type of window.ethereum is not undefined, that means if there's no any Ethereum wallet inside there, then say that connect, download a wallet, it should be there. But if it is there, go into and do what? Then get a provider. Let me explain what a provider is to you. You can learn more about this on MetaMask documentary. But a provider is any medium that will help you to, transact on the blockchain. So get this right. Inside the wallet connect component, we didn't use a provider there. That's why we didn't use Ethereum.js. We only use a method that is given by MetaMask to be able to connect our application to only the MetaMask wallet. But now, if you want to transact on the blockchain, you need a provider. Okay, so that is what we have here. So, or even not just transact, if you want to query something from the blockchain, you need a provider. First, you cannot have a provider if you do not have a connected wallet or a connected account, because that is the first stage that will now give you the way to get a provider. And now, if you connect, how do you now query from the blockchain or interact, make a transaction on the blockchain? You need a provider. So inside this particular function, we have first get the provider, and this is the variable defined. And then we use we create an instance, new Ethereum.js dot browser provider. So again, this is provided by MetaMask. So you don't need to get yourself confused. But when you see something like this, you know what it means, right? So object programming language and all of that. You know what we call the inheritance, all of these stuff. So here we are just creating an instance. So we're using the Ethereum.js that we got inside there. And then we are creating an instance with this browser provider. And inside the browser provider, window.ethereum will be provided, will be passed in there. So this window.ethereum is now the application which is inside, the Ethereum wallet, which is inside your browser, or which was detected when connecting to when connecting your browser to this. So that is it. And it will pass to the browser provider. Don't be confused. We got this from MetaMask. So just use it to achieve your purpose. Unless you want to study more, then okay. Then we have also the contract. Cons contract is equal to. Now, what is the contract? When you get a provider, what is the next thing? The next thing is now to interact with your contract, right? Because anytime you want to do something, you want to query from your contract on the blockchain, you want to query or fetch data from your blockchain, and you want to do it in your contract. So now that you get a provider, the next thing is let's now use the provider to get our contract. So that is why we have the contract instance, cons contract, and then the same ethers instance, new ethers dot contract. Okay, and then inside the dot contract, it is taking 3 arguments. This is where you use your ABI and then also the contract address that you copied. So you can check what we have here. So contract address, you can check, we have the contract address here, and this is the value. And it takes the donation contract ABI. Okay, so this is wrong. We have to correct it. So what I'll do is that I'll clear this and leave it this way. So donation contract, because this is it, donation contract ABI, and we have the value from here. So donation contract ABI, and then we pass in the provider. So you see, again, when you implement this and implement it again, you understand the logic very well. You just know that this is just a simple, code that you use to do your things. Get the provider. Then when you get the provider, use Ethers.js, which has a particular method in it called the contract. Use the instant to grab the contract and pass in the necessary arguments. What are the necessary arguments? The contract address, the donation ABI, or the contract ABI, and then the provider that you got, put it inside there. And then when you put it inside there, you now get your contract instance on your application. So you can now do anything with your contract. But this is now the contract. So let's see here. Fetch the total donations. Fetch the total donations. How do we do that? Cons total. We get a variable. Cons total. Then we assign contract dot total donations. So now let me tell you something. When you see contract dot total donations, it means that we have a function inside our contract called total donations. And then now whenever we call total donations, we will be able to get all the donations so far in our contract. So that is why total is called await contract dot total donations. Do we have a contract called total donations? Let's check to see if we have it. Let's go back to our backend. If we have it, where is it? Hardhat. Guys, I think we will not be able to finish this today. We'll have to do it, continue tomorrow. So I will just stop somewhere, maybe after this place, and we'll continue tomorrow. All right. So let's see. Let's go back to our donation app. And then we'll go to, where's the contract? This is the contract. I want to see whether we have a function called get total donations.
It's a state variable.
It's
a state variable.
Okay. Okay, yes, sure. Wow, I like that. This is it. Total donations. Okay. And then it is public. Okay. So when we have a public state variable, what does it mean? It means that it means that it creates a getter function, right? Do you remember that? A getter function.
Yes, sir.
Good. So we are just calling it. And how do we get total donations? Inside here, let me check. So anytime a donation occurs, then we assign the value donated. to the total donation. So these are like a sum, which is keeping track of any amount that is donated into the contract. So we assign any amount to this particular variable, which is a public variable, okay? And it takes the, well, I like this. All right, so let's go back to our code and know why we are doing it. So contract.total donations. Then that will give us the total donations inside this particular variable. And then set total donations. Ethers dot, okay, so why do we have this one? Again, this particular thing you are seeing here is provided by the ethers library. So if you have total, it will come in the form of is it we, or what's the name called? We Ethereum unit called the way. And this particular way, you cannot read it. We cannot read it. So your users will not be able to read it. So we have to convert it from way to the normal Ethereum. Okay. So we can have way, which is like 0.000 this and this and this and this. How do we read this? So we use this particular thing called ethers.utils.format ether. Then we pass in the variable called total. This will format it, and when we format it, we assign it to set total donations. And this is a hook. So this particular hook will assign the value to a variable. Where's the variable? It's a use-state variable. It's here. This is it, total donations. And then when we now get it, we can go to the front end and display it. Okay, where is it displayed? Here is it. We just come and display it here. All right. So when we start to build this one together, we sit together and we build this thing. You'll see that this is just, something. So we just grab it, we come and donate. We will come and put it down there. The next thing we'll do says what? Fetch and format the list of donors. This part depends on how you track donors. Adjust if needed. For simplicity, let's assume you have a method to fetch donors' addresses and amounts. Here we simulate fetching donor data. Okay, so I think what I did was that I just simulated, something like this. This is how you get it when you have it. This is how you get it. Okay, so I didn't want to put it in there because normally it can confuse you. If you're going to do something like that, you have to first use looping. So we have to loop, then we have to create an empty array, then we loop and store these donors inside the empty array to create a new array. Then we now use that particular one to render on our front end using the JavaScript mapping method. Okay, so I didn't want to do it that way. I just kept it simple like this by putting out this simulation. So we simulated this is how it will look like on your front end. Okay, but you have your total donations inside. Okay, so donors.map. We are now using this one. Set donors, which will set this particular value to it. Then we come and map it down. List of donors. So something like this. Okay. So I don't even know why it's not showing. It's supposed to show because this is just a simulation. It's supposed to show. So let's check here. Set donors. It is an array. So you grab the array for donors, and then you map it down. So we map it inside a list key index donor.address. Okay. Donor.amount. All right. Anyway, this is not showing for now. Let's go. We'll do it later. We'll check why it's not showing. Class and then border. So probably it's just a JavaScript problem. Okay, so The reason is very simple. The reason why it's not showing is because we haven't even connected wallet yet. So when you connect your wallet and then we are able to have transactions going on, then this simulation will work. But we don't even have any transaction right now. So there's no even contract, like this total does not even have any amount so far. So you don't need to have donors or list of donors down here. So until we have an amount here, then the simulation we have here will show. But that will not mean that, of course, some people have donated, and those people that have donated are these people. Okay, so that's why the simulation is not showing right now. Okay, so I think this is where we'll stop. So we'll stop at 3.3, displaying donation information. And tomorrow we'll continue from 3.4, creating the donation form, building the withdrawal funds, and then we'll make sure that everything is done. So when you get this one and you practice more, you will be able to see that everything will fall down. And then when we get together, we can build more applications. We'll build more front ends to understand everything or get to understand everything right. Okay. So, and this particular session too is recorded. Will be uploaded to YouTube and shared. All right. So I don't know if you have any questions. Let's ask. Then we close the session for today and continue tomorrow or anytime that suits us. But we don't have time. This time we have to make sure, let's try our best to, keep interacting before we get together. But we're going to be doing a lot. And when we start this way, when we meet together, we'll not be wasting time on fundamentals. We'll now go to the advanced side so that we don't build any, make projects. I will build projects that we can show out there to really say that we are Web3 developers. Okay, so let's keep interacting and let's build more. Okay, if you have any question or suggestion, kindly say it out. Then we close the session for today. And I hope you've gotten everything right so far from the beginning to this particular stage. Okay, so maybe we can close if no one is saying anything. We can close.
The journey has become tough.
Uh,
I think only 1, 2, 3, 4.
Osman has
People remain.
raised. Osman has raised a hand. Osman, can you hear you?
I think for now, me, I don't have question, but a lot of things is going on in my head.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like that. If it doesn't go that way, it means that you are not getting it right. So I'm happy that a lot of things are going, that's how it should be. And I believe you will understand with me that it's supposed to be like that. The moment things start to, go through your head that way, it means that things are trying to fall down. Because that is the only way it will push you to get it right in your head. Okay, so I like that. Let's keep this. Very soon you get it. I believe it. By next month, you get to understand what I'm talking about. You see that you even see Uniswap and you'll be like, you can build Uniswap because it's the same flow. When you go and check their documentaries, their whatever, it's the same flow we are just doing. The only thing you see is that they have added some additional things which you can also add. If you are building, maybe you want to make your app more advanced, those things are just an addition. But the main flow they follow to have these applications is just what we are doing here. All right. So what we are doing here is not any small thing. And when you get this, trust me, you can sit anywhere and call yourself a full stack DApp developer. There's no two way about that, because I've made research on these applications and I can see that this is their front end and whatever. This is just the flow. That's just the flow. I've reviewed so many applications, so many DApps, and that is just the flow they are following. Okay. So it has to be like that, because what we are doing here is not small thing. We cannot call this basics. No way. What we are doing right now is far away from basics. This is now, even we can't say this is intermediate, because the moment you get this one, trust me, we can build operational applications which will be in the market and people will be using it. So it has to be, for now, we have to just know that we are moving in a different direction, and we have to be confused. Confusion has to come into our head right now, and that is the only way. When we don't give up, then we'll go to DEFCON and challenge them. Trust me. Okay. Okay. So I think we can close the session for today, and then we'll meet next time. All right. Matla, do you want to say something? Or we can.
Oh no. I think time is gone. We can close and then continue
Yes.
tomorrow. But guys, try your best to come back tomorrow so that things can go well. So have a good day. Is it a day? Good night, rather. You can see our instructor voice is also fading, so he needs to go and get some coffee and then freshen up.
I have to say this, Kofi, Baroski. Okay, you guys, maybe it could be your first time coming to the north. We are currently in Hamatan. Trust me, Hamatan is a very nice experience, but it's a very good experience. So you experience it and you love it. But when you come down at this time, drink a lot of water. So make sure that you take a lot of water. So I'm telling you, I'm drinking water. And you're going to experience an amazing environment. All right. So have a good night, everyone. All right.
Bye.
Okay. Tapi ni mana fan nama. Maybe ulah mandi juga. Yawa. Nanduan.